All right, so we, next slide, I think that's our agenda. So we have a number of things that we're going to talk about with you today. And again, I've laid it out. We want it to be interactive and as valuable as we can. And on behalf of General Toth, who's our commander, if he were here, ladies and gentlemen, he'd be wanting you to see this next slide. So I'm going to channel him for a second. Next slide. Has anybody seen that slide before? I believe it was on the Airmen NCO, senior NCO page, something like that. But I will tell you that I'm happy to say in the last 2 years that I've really seen this culture, if you will, that's talking about this, has really started to change at AFPC. It's a lot less science-based, you know, what the AFI says, to more of an artful implementation of our different policies in the A1 enterprise. I really have seen that, and hopefully you have seen a shift as well. Next slide. To lay this out a little bit, I want to start straight off with, we're really, really honored to have our new AFPC Command Chief with us on this roadshow, and I want to introduce him. He's been on the ground about 60 days, so he's had an opportunity to interact with a lot of the AFPC team, so I want to introduce Chief Hoagland.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning, Team Whiteman. Everybody doing well? As Colonel Boyd said, hey, congratulations on a successful inspection. Can we go back to that slide real fast? Let's pause here for a second. Who's with me that, no kidding, this was our perception? So, I'm not a personnelist. 25 years of my Air Force career, absolutely I thought this was true. I thought all AFPC did was, hey, push down to the airmen these AFI and DOTI references and let's confuse the living hell out of them, and that way they'll just go bye-bye, right? And they will accept whatever we send them. Listen, we are in the profession of arms. We all understand that. We all walked across the threshold and raised our right hand. But let me tell you the culture and where we're going from AFPC itself, and I just want to share just a quick little story. Last week, we waived a 41-month time on station for a Staff Sergeant United States Air Force for talent management purposes. Because the wing came up, the hiring authority, the billet owner came up and said, this is the Staff Sergeant in the Air Force, we want to come and fill this. And your team, your Air Force Personnel Center, absolutely made it happen. Syncing mission execution with institutional requirements. On the culture piece, no different right here at Whiteman, right? It took you as an entire team to get after passing this suspension and getting after the strategic style stuff in the United States Air Force that you do. Your Air Force Personnel Center is about 2,600 strong. That is uniform wearers all the way down to our civilians that are steely-eyed warriors getting after the mission to take care of you and your family. I want to foot stop one thing. Our bumper sticker of agile, innovative, and responsiveness. The responsiveness piece. Yes, I wish we could get you an answer within an hour. That's how Hoagie rolls, but unfortunately it's not how policy and law rolls in this great military of ours. So what I ask is some patience. If your assignment handler comes back to you, which by the way, it might be one staff sergeant that's covering down on 29,000 people. Keep that in mind. 29,000 people. I ask you to take a little tactical pause, a little patience, and realize the system is working on your behalf. We also have 2 open door policies, right? Major General Toth has one with all the wing commanders, and I have one with all the command chiefs throughout the United States Air Force, and we utilize it. But it has to start at the tactical leadership. So the frontline supervisors sitting in this room right now, I ask you to dig in. Dig in with your airmen and figure out what the issues are, what assignments, what benefits, what anything, because as soon as we miss the mark, what I call the right of bang, then we have lost. So let's all be transparent, one team, one fight, and get after this. Hats off to you all. Thank you for hospitality and the invite, and proud to be part of the team. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Very nice. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, we always like to start off with our senior leader perspective, General Golfing, our Chief of Staff of the Air Force. If you read that quote, in particular the second sentence of that quote, that those words, everybody else. Well, the AFPC team, we are everybody else. We feel that that's the only reason we exist is to make sure that our mission in the United States Air Force gets done. That's why we exist. Next slide. A little visual of that, the inverted triangle, where we're at the bottom and you all, as airmen and commanders in the field, are at the top. We exist to support you all. Another thing that the commander likes to show and talk about, and with this is just a little bit of education in terms of lines of responsibility, is that Headquarters Air Force at the Pentagon, HAF, they are the policy makers, the strategy makers for us in the A1 enterprise and really for the Air Force. And at AFPC, we're the execution arm of that strategy and policy that they come up with. I will tell you, they're our teammates. We work really closely with them, sometimes even ghostwrite policies, but at the end of the day, they set the policy, and we do our very best to implement and execute that policy. Next slide. One of the reasons we're out here on the road, we've started these earlier this year. Major General Toth, our commander, really wanted to get these back up and running. I don't know, have you ever been to a road show before? Have you ever had AFPC come on out? So a few of you have. But honestly, it's been several years. With sequestration and everything, we hadn't had the budget to support it, but it's so important that we get a chance to come out and interact with the field, and so you hear what we're working on, and also we get your feedback so that we can make changes up through half on the A1 enterprise, the talent management things that we're working on. So you can't do that unless you do have that analog conversation, as Chief Hoagland talks about, that one-on-one conversations. And by the way, we got some great feedback from your leadership team earlier this morning. And what we do is we talk to wing leadership like we did this morning. We're going to talk to you today. We're going to talk to the officers and the civilians this afternoon. So we do tailored messages to the base populace when we go out on these road shows. So your feedback on what we're covering and what we shouldn't be covering, etc., we would love to hear it, because we're going to continue these road shows on because we get so much value out of it, and I think the field gets a lot of value as well. Next slide. Next slide. So we started this new thing called, or really restarted it, this AFPC Squadron Commander and Superintendent's course. We brief it at the Enlisted call because you may have some superintendents out here, squadron superintendents in the audience. And it's something that we, based on squadron commander feedback, that they said, hey, it'd be great if we could have our enlisted teammates with us in the course. And so we actually did that a couple of courses ago. We added some more courses, and what this thing is a chance for our, again, the reason we exist, our revitalizing the squadron effort. We're bringing folks back into AFPC so they can talk to subject matter experts. They can see the boardroom, they can walk the assignment floor and meet their assignment officers and assignment NCOs. They can do a mock enlisted force distribution panel, basically equip them with the things they need to do their job. And so far it's getting pretty good feedback. Anybody ever heard of it? No? Oh, I saw a hand back there, good. Again, we just restarted it. We've done 5 classes. We have another one next week. So it's a relatively new thing, but we're going to continue it on because it's getting rave reviews. So if you're a superintendent, or if you know one, maybe you're representing your superintendent, let them know about this course, because we'd love to see you there. MAGCOM A1s gives out quotas to the installations, and that's how we get the folks in. So just a quick plug on one of the many ways we're trying to increase transparency and get out with the field. Next slide. Anybody follow us on Facebook or YouTube? Ooh, I love it. Yay! That's great. There should be a lot more. Hey, listen, it's really easy to follow. We put so much stuff out there. And following it helps you know the latest and greatest. Out there, if you go out to YouTube, you can see 80 plus videos on a wide range of topics. Just some of them are listed here. It's military and civilian topics. And it's a great tool for you as leaders out there to maybe just tee up a video and then talk about it. And if something's not on this list, one of those many 80, that's how we've gotten so much, is based on feedback from the field. Said, hey, it'd be great if you cover this topic. Well, we'll jump right on that and do it. We have an awesome public affairs team that can help work this for you. So just encourage you to get out there and check it out. Next slide. One of the other social media pushes that we have is this My Air Force Benefits. Chief Hoagland has been working with it, and he has a quick update for you on it.
Thank you, ma'am. It's that 5'6" guy again. How many of you, hands up, have been to My Air Force Benefits website? Okay, a few of you. Okay. How many of you are looking to retire or separate in the near term? Okay. All right, brother. Let me do you a favor. Do not go out and spend the money on a retirement app. Go to this website right here. It's free. And No Kidding pulls your data in, your name, whatever retirement plan that you're under, your higher tenure, your total active, and what it spits out is to the cent. It is an incredible, incredible tool. So please get out your phones. At a minimum, take down the URL. This is another awesome analog point for frontline supervisors to get in your formations and sit with your airmen to discuss deployment benefits, separation, retirements, you name it. There's 150 up-to-date fact sheets that are on here. updated fact sheets. Again, talking points and touch points with your airmen as we get through some of these, some of the things going on in their life. I think what's pushing our airmen away right now is it is on an Army URL. So half A6, the CIO, is working hard to get this onto an Air Force One. So if you go out there and you Google it, it's probably going to come up with an Army bumper sticker. Just realize it is my Air Force benefits. So please, as of last week before we came out on the road show, Air Force-wide, there was only 4,000 hits to this website. And I think there's a lot of questions from our heroes in the trenches that can be answered with your leadership over the top on this. So please, jump on it. Thank you, ma'am.
Great, great. Okay, so hopefully I see a few questions that are coming in, so we'll when we get to the right part, don't forget, and if you like those questions, or if you have additional ones, please be looking at it. We will be periodically checking in and trying to answer those. And also, we also try to type in responses so we can keep the briefing flowing. Okay, next slide. So we have this thing, our commander sends out every other week communication to the field. It's strategic communications. It's on officer, enlisted, and civilian topics, kind of the big rocks that we're working in the talent management and care solutions for our United States Air Force. And I think it's pretty helpful. Your leadership team, we briefed them today. They've been getting it, and they've been trying to disseminate it to you all. Have you all been getting them pushed down to you at your level? Any of you? Not a lot of hands in the air. Well, we'll take that back to the leadership team, because the intention behind these communications is that you do get them, because there are things that matter to you. There's things about your career, different cycles, promotion timing, what's new in DSD, all kinds of things we push out in that strategic communication. And our action officers across AFPC work really hard to give the commander those bullets that can be pushed out. So we do try to do as much as we can, and this is just another way to increase transparency with the field. Next slide. So next up, we have a lot of hot topics. So we have, would like to introduce Chief Baxter. She's my DP2 superintendent. Let's give her a warm welcome. Thanks, Colonel Boyd.
Good morning. As Colonel Boyd said, I'm Chief Baxter. I am the superintendent of DP2, which is Military Personnel Operations. I have the privilege of being here today to talk to you a little bit about some of the things going on with AFPC. But there's no way that I could do this alone on the enlisted side of the house. We're within AFPC, so I wanted to make sure I pointed out some individuals that are here with us that are going to be able to support some of the questions you have, right? So from AFPC DP3, which is personnel policy, we have Chief Master Sergeant Chad Pryor. Yeah, you can give him a round of applause. Sure, yeah. From the assignment team, we have Master Sergeant Rebecca Fobbs. And our 3F5 support that's going to be really taking all these questions that you guys ask and making sure we provide a response to it, right, is Technical Sergeant Yvonne Crane. Now, we noticed that you guys already started asking questions, and that's exactly what we want to see on Meeting Pulse, right? So I just wanted to put out there that if there is a delay with the response, just know our team, we're reaching directly back to AFPC. If we don't have the answer right now, we're sending them that question. They're providing us a response, and we're going to make sure that we get that to you, all right? I noticed right away that one of the questions that came up was about being here for 10 or 11 years, right? Well, being here for a long time, it looks like. So what I wanted to do before I started my briefing is have Sergeant Fobbs. She takes care of the maintenance assignments. Just kind of address that with you right now.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? So the one question specifically, because I know not everybody has their phone, so I'm just going to talk about it for a minute. Here's the question. It says, based on exit surveys, it appears that we are losing a good amount of airmen because they are stuck at one base. What tools are available to leaders other than the dream sheet to assist them in moving? This is especially important when we talk about talent management and retaining the best airmen we have. So I'll tell you, you all know that enlisted side of the house is much bigger than the officer side of the house, and we're not just quite there yet as far as talent management and moving people that way. So unfortunately, right now for the enlisted force, the only way to really move people talent management-wise is through the DSD process, equal plus job opportunities and such like that. Otherwise, it's basically set on time on station, your eligibility to PCS. But that's why they've implemented, and Chief is going to talk about this here in a little bit, but the CONUS to CONUS cycle and having the correct amount of time on station and having more opportunities to move to places that are open for you within your career. So hopefully that answers that question, and we can talk a little bit more in depth when it comes to the CONUS to CONUS here in a minute.
Thank you, Sergeant Fox. Okay, next slide, please. Can you all see the slides in the back? Thumbs up, yes? Okay, cool. So how many of you have heard of the EPME self-registration? Show of hands. Okay, not so many hands in the air. So just wanted to talk about this briefly. It is fairly new, right? We took the input from the field on providing an opportunity for you as airmen to identify by priority when you're eligible, when you're available to go to PME, right? So instead of telling you now, giving you a class date and saying, hey, this is when you're gonna go, we're now providing you the opportunity to actually select a date, right? We started with the chiefs, with the chief leadership course, which you'll see up here, right? In July we did that. We had 208 individuals receive a targeted message. Those are the individuals that are eligible to go to CLC based on priority. And then out of those 208, we had 156 chiefs come back and give a priority of what dates work for them. On the left is a quick snapshot. It's just a screenshot, right, of what you get as a target message. You'll notice that it's a quick message telling you, congratulations, you've been selected to go to school, and then it, and no kidding, tells you the inclusive dates of the class start date to class end date, so you can make a better decision, right, for you and your family, and for the mission that you have at the squadron. As I mentioned, for this, it's been very successful for the chief leadership course. As of today, we have 0 deferments, which is a huge win, right? Because in the past, with the PME process, you guys are telling us you can't attend, right? And so then it becomes you guys are going to have to defer it, and then we have to go through a process of getting another individual in that seat, and it could potentially put that family in a hardship. But with this program, it's worked out really well. So we are currently going to roll out the senior NCO PME opportunity for senior NCOs to actually identify the date that prioritize the dates that you can attend. Right, and then we're going to roll it out for the NCO Academy in December of 19. One note that I want to mention to you is you'll have a timeline. There is a window of opportunity for you to make that selection, but just know 60 days prior to the class start date, that opportunity, you'll be locked into a class, right? So we give you a lot of time and flexibility to work with. We give you a lot of opportunities to be flexible in selecting the date for you, and this is a huge win for our enlisted airmen for professional development. Any questions on EPME? No? Okay, next slide, please. As Sergeant Fobbs mentioned, this is what we call the CONUS to CONUS assignment cycle. How many of you are familiar with CONUS to CONUS? Show of hands. Okay, so a couple of you in here. So in the past, we didn't really have an assignment program outside of your AMS special duties, right, to get you from one CONUS location to another. And then not only did we not have that, but we didn't provide you the opportunity of informing you what bases are available for you to actually PCS you to, right? So you guys were updating this, your dream sheets, if you will, with bases that really couldn't support your AFSC. Or maybe there weren't any vacancies there, right? So CONUS to CONUS came online, and it basically provides that transparent opportunity of no kidding what bases are available for you, and you're able to select those bases, right, in their CONUS to CONUS assignments. Now, are there parameters associated with CONUS to CONUS? Yes, absolutely, right? If you'll read there on the bottom, you have to have 48 months time on station, and that is a requirement, right? We want to make sure that, you being at the current CONUS assignment, that you've definitely provided your support with that mission for 4 years, and then we'll give you the opportunity to kind of look and see if there's something else for you to do through the CONUS to CONUS. Any questions on CONUS to CONUS? If you take anything away from this, I would say, the program really was to provide you the transparent communication on where you can go, right, stateside bases. It should be able to provide that for you. Okay? Yes, sir.
So let's say you have a 4-year contract, you have to extend and then wait, and then it's something
Okay. Can you ask that question out loud, please?
So I was asking, so if your contract is a 4-year contract and let's see, you have a 4-year contract, you got to extend, and then whenever you get whatever assignment, then re-enlist after that, or like how does that work? Or were you getting an assignment before you hit that 4-year mark?
So he's basically asking for first-term airmen, basically, if you're still eligible for CONUS to CONUS. So yes, if you have 48 months time on station. So once you re-enlist and you're at that 48-month point, you are eligible to play in that process. However, don't forget, as first-term airman, you're more eligible for a first-term airman BOP. So I would take advantage of that first.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Next slide, please. Another great opportunity or initiative that we have in AFPC is what we call the 365 extended deployments, right? What is this program and what does it do for you as an airman, right? If you volunteer for a 365-day deployment, or you're non-volled for a 365-day deployment, AFPC will ensure that prior to you actually leaving for your deployment, 4 months prior, right, you're going to get your orders to your next installation, to your next duty assignment. And the reason why we moved in this direction is really to support you and your family, right? So if you're gone for 365 days, we're going to give you some options. You can, one, provide your orders to your family, and you guys can actually move. You can move your family over to the new installation, right, before you actually deploy. 2, your family members can actually can move PCS while you're deployed, right? And then 3, they have the option to stay and wait until you get back, right? Those 3 key things, right? And if you notice, it's all focused around your family, right? We want to make sure that when you're on that 365-day deployment, you're able to focus in on what you have to do there, and you're not necessarily worried or concerned about your family and where they're at and getting taken care of. Now, another good thing about this is, as the member, if you decide to move your family, right, ahead of time before you actually deploy, and you come back from your deployment, you will report to your next duty station. You do not have to go back to your old unit and out process, right? So that makes it a lot easier for you. In the past, you used to have to go back to your unit, out process, and then move to your next base, right? So this does provide that flexibility to support what you and your family need. Huge win for you, the Air Force, and for your families. Any questions on this? Now, one thing I do want to mention, which was a really great point that was brought up in the leadership brief, is that, when you look at a 365-day deployment and you look at a short tour, why aren't they treated the same way, right? Why isn't a 365-day deployment, why don't you automatically get your follow-on assignment for the short tour assignment like you would for a 365-day deployment? Sometimes when you have your remote assignment, you get your remote assignment and you get your follow-on, potentially that follow-on could be canceled. For your 365-day deployment, once you get those orders, we're not going to cancel that assignment where you just sent your family to. We work really, no kidding, really hard to make sure that none of that changes. And it's because it's a deployment still. It's not an actual assignment, right? So I just want to make sure that I communicate that with y'all because your leadership did bring that up as a great point, and we want to make sure we share that with you. Any questions on this right here? Okay, next slide, please. Everyone should be familiar with joint spouse assignments, right? It's been around for a while, but we're bringing it up for discussion because we want to make sure you see and understand that when it comes to joint spouse, AFPC is, no kidding, doing our best to keep you guys together, right? We're making sure that at a minimum, right, we get you guys within 50-mile radius of each other. And that's what our goal is. Our assignment NCO, Sergeant Fobbs, when she is working a joint spouse assignment, she gets out from her desk and she'll walk over to the AFPC of your spouse and work and see what locations are available for both of you all. Keep in mind that the joint spouse code that you guys update is what takes priority. What do I mean by that? You may put down bases on your spreadsheet or on your dream sheet of where you want to go, but maybe it doesn't meet the joint spouse intent that takes the priority. So we're going to send you both to where the joint spouse intent takes the priority to, which may not be on your list. But the goal is what? To keep you guys together, right? And so that is definitely something that we do work very hard at. In the past, joint spouse assignment approvals or disapprovals, has been at the branch level, the branch chief level. And because it's such a serious, and no kidding, we want to focus on families, the disapproval for that now is General Toth, the AFPC commander. I can tell you to date, we're at a 98% approval rate. So the only time we would disapprove a joint spouse assignment is truly when there is no way to make that happen. And General Toth, trust me when I say he really focuses in on making sure we look at all options for you. right? But the joint spousal program does work. This really speaks on Air Force mill to mill, right? I didn't really touch on sister services, right? But the team does work with the sister service teams if you are married to another sister service individual. We work really hard at making sure we have that communication across the two services to try and find a location for you guys. All right, so that discussion is happening as well, and those things do work out. Okay. Any questions about joint spouse? How many of you have been? How many of you are joint spouse? Okay, keep your hands up. Right, keep your hands up if joint spouse assignments has not worked for you. Hands up. Check. Okay, so if you notice, right, around the room, no one's hand is up. And we really do try very hard at AFPC to take care of you and your family. And we really would like that support in making sure you share that with your teammates. Any questions on joint spouse? Okay, next slide, please. Some other things going on with assignments that we're working out in AFPC. The first one talks about accelerated PCS orders. So back in December, we looked at providing an opportunity to give PCS orders out to individuals 180 days prior to projected departure date, as long as you've initiated your out processing. Not necessarily completed all those items on the out processing checklist, right? So we're saying, so for Korea, we started with Korea, we said, we're going to go ahead 180 days out, give everyone their orders as long as they initiated their out processing actions. So as we were going through that test, we realized we were going to look at, some CONUS bases. So we looked at the JBS community as well. Okay, we didn't have any negative effects of the Korea beta test. And so with JBSA, we were in the middle of that. Did the same thing, provided that opportunity, provide orders 180 days out. And it was very successful, so we decided we were just going to push it out to the entire Air Force. We didn't finish that second beta test, but we didn't think we really needed to, right? So as of today, I will tell you, although our goal is to get you your orders 180 days prior to your projected departure date, we're sitting at the 60-day mark, right? So 60 days out, you should be receiving your orders. Now, this accelerated initiative here for orders, it doesn't always work with everybody, right? There are some certain circumstances that affect you getting your orders early, and that's things such as EFMP, right? Exceptional Military Family Member Program, right? So if you are EFMP, we want to make sure that medically we have the right support for you and your family. So maybe providing those orders ahead of time may not be the right answer for you and your family, right? So we work through those case by case, and then also for PRP, Personnel Reliability Program, right? We want to make sure that you are cleared to go to those locations. So providing your orders ahead of time may not always work. But I will tell you that this is a huge win because in the past, you've waited a long time to get your orders, right? You could be, no kidding, 30 days out, and some of you wouldn't have PCS orders, and that became a hardship for you. Now this opportunity will be able to help you, make those phone calls to coordinate household good deliveries. You can get your kids enrolled in school. You can get things taken care of with future homes, right, at the next installation. So it's definitely something that provides you that support that you need when you're PCSing. Okay. Any questions about this? I mentioned that we're at the 60-day mark, right? So 60 days prior to your projected departure date, you should be able to get your orders. Due to fiscal, budget and that type of thing, we're probably not going to get to 90 days until maybe after October. But I will tell you, our goal, we are going to get it across the finish line, is to get to that 180-day mark. All right. Anyone in here, show of hands, within 60 days of departing and have not received their orders? Show of hands. One person. Okay, so then I would ask you, ma'am, if you could come and see us so we can take care of you. Okay. Any questions, any other questions about this? We are definitely here to take care of you. We're definitely here to make sure that we stand by our word on how we move within our programs, right? Hence, we're going to make sure that we score our way too. All right, last bullet on here talks a little bit about early notification of assignments for commanders. How many of you are aware that commanders should be receiving assignment notifications 7 days before you actually get notified. Right? Okay, good show of hands here. So that I just want to reiterate to you that that 7-day window is not an opportunity for you to negotiate the assignment. Right? It's not. What it is for your commander to be able to posture for the mission of you being PCS, right? Making sure that they are able to make those decisions, and additionally to sit down with you and talk to you a little bit about what to expect, and then how to take care of your family if you need to in the event that when the move happens, right? So it's not a negotiation period. We want to make sure that we're reiterating that out there to you, but it is definitely a great tool for your commanders to be able to be, educated on who they're losing, right? Who's a projected loss to the organization, so they can better posture the mission. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Should I stand up? Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Hello. Just a quick question. So when it comes to the 7-day notification for commanders, how do you keep your commander rotation list updated? For example, every other year we have brand new squadron commanders coming in, potentially notifying ones that are deployed. How do you know who the backup is for those notifications? Because I've seen them go very wrong.
Thank you for that question. And so the way the notification process works, we're meeting with the FSSs, right? We're going to sit down with the FSSs and talk about any issues or concerns with the notifications going to the commanders. And so I would say, here at the installation level, the FSS should be able to have a no-kidding updated roster, right, on those individuals. Chief Pryor, did you want to?
It's aligned to, who asked that question? Okay, so it's aligned to the passcode. So as commanders interchange out, the DSM shop, which is the system shops inside the MPF, they align it to that passcode. That's how it regulates the commander. So it's really nothing the commander really needs to do.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions? This is what we want, right? We want to make sure we're answering those questions that you have that can help you, better educate those folks that are around you, right? Awesome. Okay, next slide, please. Career Status Program, otherwise known as indefinite reenlistments. How many of you have heard about this recently or heard about it overall? Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about what this program is. It really, being in an indefinite reenlistment basically says that, right? You're going to have this one last reenlistment, and then your date of separation will then match your HYT. Okay. We are still in the process. If you look at that first line there, right, it says Reg F Airman within 15 or more years of service. So although that's identified here, I have to make sure I express to you all that this has not been approved and or defined yet. We're just giving you a kind of peek behind the tent of letting you know that this is going to happen, but we're going to see maybe 15 years of service is not the right time for that to happen, right? Maybe, 12 years. So we're looking at that years of service range to make sure that it's the right target before we actually push that information out. But just know this is this will be definitely a huge win for the enlisted, right? Because as it shows on the bottom, doing the retainability, right? That takes a lot of work and effort, right? Processing those documents takes a lot of work and effort. Some of it is pay affecting, right? So those things could potentially, be minimized as well. So as we work through this, AFPC will continue to message out some of the specifics, but we wanted to give you a read ahead that this is something that we are definitely looking at. Any questions on this? Okay, next slide, please. Hot topic of discussion is developmental special duty, and I think I saw some questions on the meeting pulse about DSD, which we're getting answers for. But I really wanted you to know as airmen that it's important for you to, one, know what available opportunities are there for you for developmental special duty, right? Because it gives you a no kidding out of the AFPC perspective on something different, and it develops you, right? And these are the AFPCs right here currently today, which are associated with DSD. From your level, I would ask that as an airman, supervisor, leader, that you understand the requirements, the eligibility requirements for DSD. So if you're interested in becoming an military training instructor, you know what the requirements are for MTI. What's happening today is we're still receiving nominations of individuals for developmental special duty, and by the time it's vectored through the wing, MatchComs, and it comes to AFPC, we're still having to disqualify you because you're not even meeting the minimum eligibility requirements. So what message can I send to you guys here is, as airmen, right, big A, if you take the opportunity to really understand what each job requirements are for those specific jobs, that you actually meet them before your name gets pushed up, okay? I'd like to see a show of how many of you have been nominated for DSD. Show of hands. Okay, hold on, keep your hands there. How many of you knew about your nomination? Awesome. That's good to see. We're getting feedback that sometimes folks are being nominated and not necessarily know that they're being nominated, right? So they're surprised when AFPC sends them that notification of, congratulations, you have been nominated for first sergeant duty. And they're like, what just happened? I didn't know about that. So that's good to hear, right? So from your perspective, I would just say, takeaway here is, one, definitely make sure that you know what the job entails and that's something that you want to do. And yeah, definitely let your leadership know that you're interested in that, okay? Any questions on developmental? Oh, somebody had a question about first sergeants, right? We wanted to know if the first sergeants were changing, I think DSD or something like that, right, Chief Oakland? Did we provide a response on that already?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that PSDM should be released. It's in court right now. It should be released, but it is changing.
Okay. So just for general information purposes, the 8F 000 is the first sergeants. That process for developmental special duty is changing. The personnel services delivery guide will be released, and that information will be available for you to identify what those changes are. Okay. Any questions? DSD, yes, sir. Oh,
I was going to ask, so in the 8 series, there's also a few other positions like courier and defense attaché. How come those aren't up there?
That's a good question. They're not actually identified as developmental special duties, right? Those are positions that are identified via Equal Plus, right? You should see the. It's a good question though, because you do have to actually step out of your career field to actually do those jobs, right? So it is something that is advertised via EMS, but it is not categorized as a developmental special duty. Okay. Good with that? Okay. Any other questions? Next slide, please. So looking at enlisted evaluations, we still have a huge concern with the timeliness of evals. From your perspective, what we would like to see is your involvement in making sure that evals are being processed in a timely manner, right? So from your seat, if you could make sure that you're getting those evals through, because what ends up happening, right, with this lateness to AFPC, this lateness to AFPC is there's second and third order effects, right? Although the member meets a supplemental board, they could have potentially been promoted earlier, right? So we're pushing them back later to supplementally meet the board for consideration. And then additionally, that report, the feedback on that report is probably not occurring in a timely manner if you're late, right? If you're late on pushing that report. So we want to make sure that we provide that timely feedback, that no kidding members are the opportunity to be promoted in a timely manner, or at least looked at in a timely manner. And two, what if the member is selected for promotion? That puts a delay on the payment, right? The family receiving that amount. So it's crucial from your perspective that you actually do your best to push those reports and make sure that they're on time to AFPC. Any questions on enlisted evals? Yes.
Do you have any stats that show what level these evals are getting stuck at the most?
I do not have those stats here with me, but I think that's something that we could definitely look into finding out. Okay.
Do you have a theory?
Sorry?
Do you have a theory on where it's being stuck?
I think it's between one of the 30 people that reviewed the entire
So at the local level? The local
I'm
level?
sure it's at the local level. I just want to know within the wings you're seeing trends where it's sticking.
We'll let Chief Pryor something up on that.
So that's a great point, and it could be a local issue, right? And that's where our leadership, because we do it at AFPC with our reports and how we look at it. So we're in the same boat as you guys. But if you look at the list in VPC, everybody needs to see it, right? So leadership can take that list and dwindle it down based on, we know first sergeants need to look at the report for quality indicators, supervision, but if you got 3 or 4 senior master sergeants or chiefs looking at a report, you probably could dwindle that down to kind of help speed up the process. But that's a great point that I would bring up to the leadership here.
Can I see that real quick? Hey, you guys, can you come up here? I got a coin burning in my pocket because your candid transparency right there just got me spooled up. So, is that you that brought it up? Thank you. Now help us fix it.
That's good stuff right there. Good stuff. Any other questions on EES? All right, let's take a look at the next slide, please. So this is really dealing with promotion results. And what we wanted to show you guys is focusing in on the now, must promote, and promote recommendations, right? Overall message, to take away is that receiving a promote will still give the opportunity to be promoted. Although receiving a must promote and a promote now, the commander gives you a distinct advantage to being promoted, you as an airman still have to put in your effort and you can still be promoted with that promote recommendation, right? So if you look at the number of selects, right, the center column is kind of what I look at and want to show you guys. And you look at the highlighted numbers, the percentages, right? For the 19E7 results, promote nows, there were 23% of promote nows that were selected. Only 23%. So that doesn't mean you're going to automatically get promoted if you get a promote now either, right? That's what that's telling you. So the individual, you as an airman, still have to put forth the effort, right? Must promotes, 33% of your must promotes got selected for promotion. Again, still a message for you to see that an MP doesn't automatically get you in the door for promotion, right? And then, really the big hitter here is 42% of the selects received a promote. Man, that's a huge percentage. So it shouldn't be demotivating for you, right? Yeah, if you want to have that distinct advantage, then you want to make sure that you're definitely competitive enough, right? You want to make sure you're doing those things. But don't allow that promotion rating to affect you getting promoted because you're still in the game, okay? And we want to make sure that you're sharing that message. Any questions here? Okay, next slide, please. Oh, yes. Oh, yep. Okay, so we have another question before we go on to the briefing. Sergeant Fobbs is going to answer.
Okay, so the question is concerning the overseas returning cycle. Specifically, a member is asking, if a member's first assignment was overseas and they return stateside, will their PCS cycle always remain the same to PCS overseas, or could it change? The cycle dates could, but the cycle months will never change. So if you go out on My Person AMS and you see the cycle calendar for the overseas returnees and the overseas cycles, those months will never change. But I will tell you this. I've had someone, we always tell people when they want to move, if they feel like they're stuck somewhere, volunteer for Korea. Keep Korea on your dream sheet. It's true, but what people are doing is they're removing Korea after those cycle closes. What a lot of people don't realize is we have a lot of people medically disqualified out of Korea. And we have to do out-of-cycle reselects. If you keep your dream sheet updated to include Korea on it, you could be considered one of those out-of-cycle reselects. So keep that in mind. Your dream sheet does not only pertain to cycle time frame. Okay, hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Colonel Boyd?
You guys been checking out the meeting pulse? A lot of your questions are getting answered right there on the meeting pulse itself. And if you asked a question and you don't see it anymore, we are marking them as done. If they've been answered, we're marking them as done. You can still scroll to the bottom and see them. And like one I just thought was pretty awesome. It was about commissioning. right? And if you look down, all the way down, and it says marked as done, there was like three really good nuggets that were added to the response on that one, like about, not only are we going to take it back as AFPC from the Career Assistance Advisor FAM perspective, but also, your local team, your Career Assistance Advisor POC is listed on here. And then also we provided some, hey, you can go onto MyPERS, onto the website, and also seek out information through that route. So lots of good information on there. I just wanted to highlight that. And thanks to everybody for asking incredible questions, in my opinion. And you guys are just a really good, respectful group and asking some awesome questions. So thank you for so far. Really, really good. Let's see. Any other questions you guys want to highlight? The answered, chiefs in the front row. Any ones you want to talk about that were answered on the meat pulse but you think is worth emphasizing?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Someone had a question on stratifications, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was a CMAS sergeant, or not a CMAS sergeant, but a senior NCO. So we answered, but I'll tell you, my perspective, me and the command chief were up here talking. I don't think you should get so caught up on the strat piece, right? Because the reason we went to this new system so we could focus specifically on performance. Our old system was moving towards that, but Chief Master Sergeant Air Force decided by doing away with testing, we were solely going to focus on performance. I will tell you, and I tell this in every forum, I was promoted without a stratification. I've been stratified, but it's going to be the sustained performance. So if you get a strat this year, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be promoted. You're going to have a high chance of being looked at. But if you hadn't had that performance the past 4 years, then it is probably not going to matter. So we always tell our folks that stratification works. It's a tool for the commander. There have been discussions that Chief probably could talk to you about. Should we even have strats? But don't get so much caught on the strat versus the sustained performance. All right.
Anything else, Chiefs?
All right, great. So we've been talking about talent management for the first portion of this briefing. Another really important mission set that we have at AFPC is we have a whole direct that is in support of Airmen and Family Care. Most of you might think of, next slide, the Wounded Warrior Program, for example. Go ahead, go to the next slide. So have you guys heard of the Wounded Warrior Program? Anybody? Raise your hand. Really? Okay, that's what we normally see. A lot of those care events, Wounded Warrior competitions and things like that it's a real visible way of this program, and our AFPC teammates really do a good job with this program. If you look at the number, there's over 9,800 airmen in our United States Air Force that are enrolled in Wounded Warrior. But if you look at that same bullet, it says 14% combat related. In other words, 86% are not combat related, okay? So let me ask you, what kind of things might be non-combat related reasons why they might be a Wounded Warrior? Shout it out. Sexual assault. Cancer, absolutely. TBI, absolutely. What else? Suicidal ideations, yeah, mental health issues, yep, that are not necessarily combat related, yep. Car accidents, they could get in car accidents. Again, the whole reason behind Wounded Warrior is this like a non-medical treatment, but it's for wounded, ill, or injured airmen that may take months or even years to recover. But the goal of the program is to get the airmen back to duty and return to duty as soon as possible. And we're returning airmen to duty more and more every day under this program. Commanders have a critical role, as well as do our recovery care coordinators that are all across the Air Force. I did not research if you have one here at Whiteman, but you certainly have an RCC that's assigned to this installation and the recovery for it, but your Force Support Squadron can give you the details on that. But we want to talk about this program because you as leaders, or even yourself, if you have a need, if you have a situation like those that we talked about in the room, or a combat related one, that you need that extra support, is that in doubt, refer to this program. Because even if you're not eligible for the program, you can get additional resources and you can just find out more about it. So when in doubt, refer. And you can refer airmen that work for you, or you can refer yourself, or someone that you even work with. Next slide, it's really easy to do it. You search on Wounded Warrior, and you see on the right-hand side, refer an airman. Click on that button, and you'll be able to take it from there. And so, like I said, when I asked my counterparts in the Airmen and Family Care Directorate what they wanted to impart with you all is just, again, and I said it, but I say it again, when in doubt, refer them, because we want them to have the support and resources that they need and deserve. Next slide. Also out on social media, like most of our programs, as you see here. So if you're interested, take a picture of that. And we also, by the way, your Force Support Squadron will get copies of all of these slides so you can refer to them later. Next slide. Wanted to have a quick foot stomp on this SGLI and VRED, Record of Emergency Data. You've all heard of these, I hope? Yes? I should see head nods. Actually, you guys are you're better than the Air Force on the SGLI piece, which is an annual requirement. You go out onto MilConnect and you validate your information. And then on VRED, a little bit behind Air Force, you usually get that annual, about your birthday month, that little reminder, hey, go out and check VRED. But just wanted to share kind of with where you guys stand. But VRED is important for your next of kin notification if God forbid anything happens to you, so that we're notifying the right folks. And then also there's benefits associated with that, death gratuity, etc. And then of course SGLI, very, very self-explanatory, that insurance money, we want to make sure it goes to the right people if something did happen to you. Next slide. Why do we foot stomp it? Because things like this that are on these slides happen all the time, unfortunately. These are just 2 examples from last year. Just take a look. This stuff matters. This stuff matters. Anybody ever have a situation like this happen in your unit or with an airman? I see some hands in the air. It's tragic. It's tragic when it happens. It just gives me goosebumps. And so we like to foot stomp this a little bit while we're out on the road show, because we see it. We have casualty. That it's all centralized at AFPC. That's who a lot of your casualty assistance reps are calling, is us at AFPC. And we just see this way too often. So we want to take the opportunity to ask for your emphasis. So if you have an airman or yourself and they get married, and what I like to say is, congratulations. Did you update your VRED? Did you update your stuff? I mean, it should almost be the automatic next thing. Did you update your SGLI? Because you just hate to see it go to the wrong person. Make sense? Okay, next slide. Next slide. So, a great benefit our Air Force has, and I tell you they didn't have it 28 years ago when I came in the Air Force, and I'm really glad they have it now, is this transfer of education benefits. Who's done this? A bunch of you have. Awesome. If you haven't done it, maybe you're not in that sweet spot there, that over 6 years, but what I would encourage you to do, if you do have dependents and you want to transfer them, just make sure you are able to fulfill the 4-year active duty service commitment to do the transfer. And we want to emphasize this out here because this is a recruiting and retention incentive. That's why the Department of Defense received this benefit. But again, they want to make sure they get at least the 4 years return on investment, if you will, for doing so. And we want to highlight this date. If you haven't transferred it yet, but you're thinking about doing it, if the 20th of January of 20, limit any kind of transfer of the benefits if you're outside of that window between 6 and 16 years of service. So if you're 17 years of service, you haven't done it yet, and it's January 30th, you can't transfer, because again, this is a recruiting and retention incentive. If you have over 16 years, very likely you'll be staying to 20, and we don't need to incentivize you to do so. So that's the rationale, and that's what the Department of Defense DoD program is all about. So I just want to do this quick emphasize item on that one, okay? Next slide. Okay, I think that's our last slide. How's the meeting pulse going, Chiefs? Anything you want to reiterate on the meeting pulse? Got one?
Okay, there's a question. It says, is there anything in the works for anyone in the Air Force that separated from children due to a divorce to get back to their children other than a base of preference? I can tell you right now that as of today, there is not a no-kidding program that outlines that. But I will also tell you in the same voice that AFPC works cases on a situational basis. And normally those are elevated through leadership, and then we get them from command chiefs and